Oh, God. Every year for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, it is requested by wherever I'm going, whether it's, Earl, are you gonna come join me? Whether it is my side of the family or if it is my wife's side of the family, they always request me to bring the green bean casserole. I want to preface that the original recipe that this inspiration was it's a Serious Eats recipe. I think it's called like the ultimate green bean casserole. I started using that recipe probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. So the original recipe came from that article, but I've adapted it to the things that I have found which works for me and my family. So this is how I do green bean casserole. Okay, so there's 3 important parts to it. You're gonna be using green beans, the crispy onion topping, and the most important part is you have to have the mushroom sauce that you're gonna be using. So I clearly have a ton of mushrooms in front of me, and you can use any mushrooms in the world that you wanna use, and there's so many different varieties. But a couple things that I always kind of lend to. So I'm using 4 different kinds of mushrooms today. I'm using shiitakes because they have kind of like a meaty kind of texture to them. And so they have a very like full bodiness to them. These are some baby bellas, so just like some standard portobello mushrooms, and these are very dirty. So I need to make sure that I clean those. I have some chanterelles. So we're gonna be using chanterelle mushrooms. I don't have a lot of chanterelles today, but we're gonna be using some chanterelles. And then for the first time ever, I'm using chestnut mushrooms. I've never used chestnut mushrooms before in a green bean casserole, but we're gonna be using them. I looked them up before I bought them, and they're gonna have like a nutty kind of like flavor to them. So I think they're gonna go really good in green bean casserole. We need to talk about the green beans. So I've used fresh green beans, I have used frozen green beans, I have used canned green beans, I have done combinations of the two, and I have found that frozen green beans have the best texture and ease to work with. So green bean casserole for me is all about nostalgia. I grew up with that like Betty Crocker style, canned green beans, French's fried onions on top, like that. For me, I'm like channeling those flavors, but at the same time, I want to put like my own little twist on it because I really enjoy cooking. If you're using fresh green beans, they have a lot of texture, a lot of pop to them. If you're using canned, they're like very mushy, easy to eat kind of thing. And then like the frozen ones are kind of right in the middle. So there's something that happens when they make frozen green beans where they're pre-blanched normally, so that removes a step. Pre-cut, which removes a step. And then also like there's something about like the freezing of green beans and sort of the way that it like softens them slightly. The frozen, the expansion of water in there kind of like breaks up sort of like the tough innards of green beans, and they just have like a perfect texture to me. So I always start by rinsing the green beans. This is 2 pounds of green beans. So if you want to trim 2 pounds of green beans, go for it. I've done it many a times, and it's one of the more frustrating parts of this recipe. This recipe, I've actually like streamlined it so it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy nowadays, but man, trimming 2 pounds of green beans will take you a while. So I'll set this aside and let this drain. Look at that, step 1, super easy. We're already off to the races here. Now, we need to deal with the mushrooms, okay? So when it comes to the mushrooms, I work backwards. So mushrooms are like 90% water, and they hold water very easily. And so we're gonna be cooking most of the water out of these, but at the same time, I don't want them to take in any additional water. So I'm first gonna remove the stems, and then I'm gonna rinse these real quick, because some of these are pretty, there's a lot of dirt on them. Which is, I mean, it's a good sign. It means that, you know, they came from the ground. Stems on the bellas and the shiitakes are tough, and you don't want to eat those. But the stems are very tough on these, and so, but you can save them to make maybe like a, I don't know, like a vegetable stock or something like that. So I'll probably save them or I'll compost them, one of the two. I have all my mushrooms trimmed. I have some baby portobellos. I have some chanterelles, some beautiful looking chanterelles. I have shiitake mushrooms, and I have these chestnut mushrooms. And I got a total of 2 pounds of mushrooms. I'm gonna trim them, and then we're going to get them in the pot, and then we're gonna get those sauteed up and get them soft, and they're going to reduce in quite a bit by volume because they're like 90% water. So basically for the portobellos, I quarter them straight into the pot. So I hadn't worked with chestnuts before. So some of the larger ones, I'm probably gonna remove a little bit more of the stem. So it's right about maybe this size. And then I'll probably have it right down the stem, because I think that's pretty looking. And then the shiitakes, I'm probably gonna slice. And then the smaller ones I'll just leave in their whole. Chanterelles, I always chop off right off the bottom. And then, since it's gonna be going in there, I kind of do a little bit of a dice on the large stem, and then I kind of try to keep the chanterelle itself as kind of whole as possible, because it's beautiful, it's got a great flavor to them. It's a pretty special mushroom, and they're not cheap. So I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna process the rest of these, and then we're gonna get these sauteing in some oil. Okay, now that I have all the mushrooms trimmed up to a variety of different sizes, we're gonna get these sauteing. So I got this in here with a little bit of oil. And what we wanna do is we wanna get these mushrooms to drop all of their water. Now, I kind of wait till it starts to sound pretty aggressive like this, and it means it's starting to kind of fry and they've lost a lot of their water. And that's when I add about 2 tablespoons of butter, and then as much garlic as you'd like. This is about 5 cloves of garlic. Now this is a personal thing, but we really like garlic. And then get this going. Reduce the heat down to medium at this point. And then also a good amount of salt. It's gonna help the mushrooms drop any more additional water. And some black pepper. Now you want to be kind of careful that you don't burn the garlic. With the butter, it gets kind of brown, it's nutty. The garlic and all of the mushrooms and everything are just kind of cooked through and soft. Now at this point we're ready to add some flour. So I add about 1/3 of a cup of flour to this. And basically what you want to do is you want to coat all of the mushrooms, and this is what's gonna thicken the sauce. Now if you don't do this first, that's how you get clumps. And the flour is gonna get all clumpy. And so you basically want to keep on stirring it until you can't see the flour anymore, and then give it about 30 seconds for the kind of the, I don't know, the flour. Jeez, I keep losing mushrooms. For the flour to kind of incorporate and that harsh flour, I don't know, flour taste to kind of cook off. All right, now at this point, do a little bit of deglazing. I'm deglaze the pan with some homemade chicken stock. That's a whole nother video on how to do that though. And I'll also add 1.5 cups whole milk. Temperature on this to about medium high, and let it come up to a boil. Now we need to add some umami and some acid. 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. And I like to use balsamic vinegar. Balsamic. You can hear it starting to come to a boil. All right, now that this has come to a boil and it's starting to thicken up, we're gonna reduce this to kind of medium-low and just let this get super thick. Kind of the most important moment of this entire thing. You do not want a watery green bean casserole. So we're gonna keep on going until it's basically like splattering out of the pan. Normally, in years past, I would say that this is ready. I don't think it is. Check back on it in another 3 to 5 minutes probably, but we're pretty close. All right, it's been an additional 5 minutes and I think I'm gonna call it. So if I go around in circles around it, it almost like stays for a second like a really thin mashed potato kind of consistency. So it's time to combine with the green beans, and then we get to the most difficult part of this entire procedure. Okay, we're about 2/3 of the way there. So I have the green beans that have been draining for the last 40 minutes probably. See, there's still a little bit of water coming off of them. I even took it a step further this time and I put these in a clean dish towel and I tried to squeeze just a little bit of residual water out here. So, into a bowl. And then we're gonna take our mushroom sauce, and we're gonna pour it right over top. Now, as I was letting this reduce, I was checking the seasoning on this, but let's give it one last little taste. It's so good. And then we will set this aside, and we are on to the part that is kind of a pain in the butt. I'm not gonna lie, it is a pain in the butt. but it's essential. We're moving on to the onions. Okay, this part sucks and it's super dangerous. So this is a really small mandolin. I've had different kinds of mandolins. I've had huge ones, I've had tiny ones. They all are incredibly dangerous. I think this one is made by OXO. It is made by OXO. I like this one the best. So I'm gonna set it, there's 3 settings. I'm gonna set it on a 2, I believe. We'll see where it gets you. But we are gonna be using shallots and we are going to be slicing them. A mandolin is the most dangerous thing in my kitchen. And you will cut yourself badly one time before you take this thing. This thing will humble you very quickly. So when I pick my shallots, I try to find the biggest shallots possible because those are the easiest to make slices with. So we're gonna remove the skins from these shallots. This takes a while. This is by far the hardest part about making these green bean casserole, but you know what? There's a reason I only make this twice a year. I make it for Christmas and I make it for Thanksgiving. And I'll probably be crying by the end of this because the amount of whatever that crying chemical that comes out of onions is so intense when you are doing shallots. I got the skins off of them and I'm already in full-on tears from opening. So I find this is about 2 pounds of shallots. I find that the bigger ones you can get, the easier it is for them for you to trim them. So I've got this, there's 3 settings on this mandolin. I have it set on number 2 out of 3 and I'm wearing a wire glove because like I said, you only cut yourself, I think I'm gonna go a little bit smaller. I think I'm gonna go down to maybe 1, I think. Let's see what 1 gets me. Yeah, so 1 is about 1/8 of an inch, I wanna say. It's less than 1/4 inch. Yeah, I'd say 2 is about 1/4 inch and 1 is about 1/8 of an inch on this. So I'm gonna process these all down on the 1 setting and just fill this pot with them. I'm gonna keep going. This wire glove, it's like an oyster shucking glove. And I'm gonna be in tears so fast here. So you could use your hand, just be crazy careful. But I always end up bleeding. And I've cut myself very bad. I was a bartender for 13 years. And the bar I used to work at, we had a mandolin. We used to do it for like drinks that had like pear slices or apple slices in it. And I cut myself so bad so many times. So got a whole pot of shallots now. And now we're gonna cover this with a neutral oil. I'm just gonna use vegetable oil. And we're gonna get this on the stove on high. And I just kind of leave it on high and get these all fried up. Oh my God. Oh, God. The onions, crushing. They always just crush me. So, these have been going about 10 minutes now. And they're just starting to get a little bit of color on them. And this is when you want to pay really close attention. And just kind of like really keep stirring. Because when they start to brown and get crispy, they're going to go from like nothing to 100 in a matter of moments. So you want to kind of just keep on stirring them. And then when they turn golden brown is when you want to pull them. And you're going to put them through a strainer. So a strainer with a bowl to catch the oil on the bottom. Now you can see they start to kind of like clump up. We're very close now. You can almost visually see them changing color in like a matter of moments. Now they're getting darker by the second. All right, calling it. I just kind of want to lay them out and let them cool down. So I'm just going to take a little bit of olive oil and just kind of wipe it along the inside. Man, that oil is going off over there. Sounds like it's gonna explode. It's not. Okay. Now we got our green bean mixture and a rubber spatula. So I'm gonna take a little bit of our shallots, put them directly in here. Trying to visualize how much I'm gonna need for the topping. Beautiful. All right, now we're gonna pop this into a 350-degree oven for, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes until it's like all bubbling and whatnot, and it's gonna come out and rest. Okay. It's looking beautiful. Now it just needs to rest for about 10 minutes and then we'll get this topping on there. Okay, let's taste it. All right, I'm not gonna lie. The crispy onions, the crispy shallots that I made, they're a little bit darker than I wanted them to be. And I think it's because I was filming and when I strained them, they sat in the colander for a little bit too long. But I've tasted them and they still taste great. They don't taste burnt or bitter, but they're a little bit darker than I normally would. So normally, all right, pretend it's Thanksgiving. This has been resting for about a moment while everybody's getting ready, you know, grandma and mom's call for everybody to go eat. It's been resting. You take this, you take the crispy topping, and you spread it evenly over top of it and serve. But since I'm only one person, I got a whole freaking casserole dish of this now. I don't want my crispy topping to get all soggy, so I'm gonna do it as a single serving here. So let's go ahead and give it a try. See, it's not too watery. So, first crisis averted. Second crisis is overcooking the green beans. A little bit dark, sorry, the shallots. They're a little bit dark, but I still think they did a good, and they still taste great, and that's all that really matters in the grand scheme of things. So, top it with your crispy green beans, or your, I keep calling them green beans, crispy shallots, and you're good to go. Green bean casserole. It is my absolute favorite thing when it comes to Thanksgiving. It is nostalgia in a casserole dish. So, cheers. See how it tastes. It's amazing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not just saying this. It's so good. It's weird. Like, there's a juiciness factor to green bean casserole. So if you have like dry turkey or dry mashed potatoes or something like that, like, toss this on top of it. Like, controversial statement, hot take, here's my hot take. Green bean casserole can be substituted as gravy if you wanted it to. I said it. It's so good. Now, things I wanted to do to kind of level this up that I have not done yet. And again, they used to take it to the untraditional route. Let's see if I would actually do this. So, you could make this spicy. And in a way to make it spicy, I wanted to add, like if you were to flame roast some hatch chilies and put some hatch chilies in here, I think that would be banging. Or you could take some pork belly and cube it and then fry that off and add like cubed pork belly. I think that would take this to a whole freaking another level too. But the way that it stands at the moment, I think is like an elevated version of the traditional green bean casserole that we all have probably grown up with. I know I did, at least in my family. So anyways, let me know what your thoughts are on this. Again, the original inspiration for this recipe came from a Serious Eats article / recipe that I read like 6 or 7 years ago. I took that recipe and I borrowed the basis for that recipe and then changed a few things and added and changed quantities and items out to suit the things that I enjoy about that, but that article is definitely the inspiration for this. So I will link that article in the description below so you can check that out. So, all right, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love you, and I'll see you guys on the next.
Hey, this is Brian Ames. Please click the subscribe button that you see right there, and you'll subscribe to my videos. From now on, I'm going to be eating a lot of peppers. It's going to, oh man, it's going to be great. Bye.